At the end of the day, we are live. Hi, Robby Grubbs.
Hello, Lee.
How are you doing, sir?
Oh God, like I said off screen, a little crazy. It's funny that you asked me to do this right now because after I said yes, I was like, oh shit, the timing sucks, man. I am so crazy right now.
Well, I promise it'll be fun.
I think it's great.
Yeah. You are somebody that I use as a constant, what's the best way to use it? You're someone that I constantly refer to in the coffee industry as like what you've built is, excuse me, is super impressive, and least of all because of the coffee side of it. I think I told this story to your staff when I was there in San Antonio for when we launched Elixir. You guys were the first Elixir dealers out of California.
Yes.
And you and Nisha are the reason I decided to stay in the coffee industry.
You're crazy.
You're fucking crazy. That's why
we know that, but yeah. But who's more crazy?
You don't know that I'm fucking crazy? Come on now. Yeah. No, really. I remember when Scott introduced us, I was saying hi to Scott at SCA, and then he's like, come, I want you to meet my friends. And he introduced me to you two. And at that point, we had just launched Elixir in Australia, and I was getting a fuck ton of backlash, and everyone fucking hated me. And then I met you and Nisha, and I thought, well, these are the first two people that I've met that aren't assholes in a long time. And these are my people. And I knew we would be friends for the rest of my life.
That's awesome. That's so funny. I remember that because it was like, we met you guys for dinner, right? And it was Matt was with you.
Yeah.
That's right.
You remember Scott was like, she's got every dietary requirement under the sun.
Well, it was me, Nisha, you, Matt, Scott, and we're like, we ate dinner and we were there for probably 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody ever talked about coffee.
No.
We were at SCA.
I think we talked about gut bacteria. Well, Scott was there. And so, of course, we talked about gut bacteria. And we talked about a whole bunch of stuff. But that was when meeting you two really was a saving grace for me. And I will be eternally grateful for the fact that our paths crossed. And I consider you guys dear friends because, one, you're both crazy in the best possible way. And two, you're really authentic. As much as you don't want people to know that, Robby, you really are.
Yeah. You know, I don't know that. You know, I am who I am. You know, and don't confuse that with that I don't have an opinion or I don't have a concern about what other people think. I mean, trust me, this is so much of my life has been dictated by what you might think of me. So if you're really being authentic and true, sometimes just to the course of my own life, when I really dig deep and I ask myself kind of the causes and conditions why certain things have happened or why I've made certain decisions, and I'm being totally honest, when I get down to that innermost self, I'm like, oh shit, maybe I do care what people think. And it drives me a lot. Not as much to this day, and I think that just comes with like a lot of experience. A lot of what does it say? Hardship is a pathway to peace. You know, for sure. So
I remember when I met you, I recognized something in you that I recognized in myself. Like I could tell that you'd come from a motherfucker of a journey. Like I would listen to you talk about stuff, and I would.
Do you really think so? I mean, when it's your own journey, does it really feel like a motherfucker of a journey?
Yeah, man.
It does? Yeah. Okay. All right.
Does it for you?
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's like I think so, but you know what? I get the privilege of like hearing other people's story and journey, and I'm like, I keep my shit. I'll keep mine.
Yeah. No. And when I say motherfucker of a journey, I mean like we haven't just coasted. People like you and I haven't coasted. We've stopped and we've thought about things and we've assessed. Like I remember talking with you and thinking, this guy is nothing like the vibe that he gives off. Oh. He thinks about shit. He questions it. He's changed a ton of his life around. I think it takes people like us to recognize other people like us. Like I'm the same. I always cared what people thought about me. That was as a result of being raised an Arab. You know, that's part of our conditioning. Care what people think about you, and make sure that you serve everybody else before you. And that doesn't really
I didn't have that second trait.
No, you didn't. You still don't.
Yeah. President of the Me, Myself, and I Club right here, man. Yeah.
But you do give a shit. You really, really do give a shit.
Yeah.
And, and that comes from seeing the way that you've built your business.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think was it empathy and sympathy? I do. I've got it in spades. I don't know if that was something I was born with. I had a stepdad that God, I hate to say this and put this out. He wasn't the best of guys. I don't want to sit back here and call him an alcoholic, but he has all the tendencies and what comes with that label. And so at a young age, I learned how to read a room. It was important because I never knew what I was going to get. I could come home from school one day and it'd be like, hey, how's it going? How was your day? And the next day it's like, what the fuck? And so it was like, I think I just really learned from a young age. And I don't know if it was something I was already possessed, or I just really fine-tuned it in that environment. And I think a lot of my life, it's not been the most constructive tool that I had, because I had a tendency to convince myself what you thought of me before you even said a word, and I would kind of adjust accordingly, trying to be who you wanted me to be. I mean, I think, I'm almost 50. I'm still in an identity crisis. Don't get me wrong, but it was definitely a lot when I was younger. But today it's, being at the steering the ship, so to speak, and having all these incredible people I get to work with. I am, man. It's like, if I when I speak, I emote. It like comes from my soul, because I can feel when somebody's in that conversation with me and when they're not, and so, yeah.
It's interesting that you were talking about that in your childhood. Since we're being real about shit, I can relate.
This is a therapy session, right?
Clearly.
Okay, all right. I'm just making sure. I didn't know what I signed up for. I just wanted to make sure.
Nobody's watching. But when I lived in LA about 8 years ago now, I had a friend recognize a whole bunch of qualities in me, and she said, I think you need to come with me to Al-Anon. And for anyone who doesn't know, like, AA is for the addict, Al-Anon is for the people around the addict. And I'm like, no, I don't need to go to anything like that. And I really did. And I went, and I would go every Sunday for about 2 years. And I learned so much about growing up around addiction and growing up around dysfunction. And you learn a lot of the behaviors that they're part of your toolkit, right? Like you said, reading a room is a part of a kid that grew up around dysfunction. That's a part of their toolkit. It's a survival mechanism. It's a strategy for reading signals. We become very good at reading micro expressions. Yes. It turns us into great entrepreneurs for that reason. Another thing is that it teaches you about this idea of learning how to present yourself in what's in the mask that's required to survive a situation.
Yes.
Yeah. There's so much to it. It's this idea of realizing that there's gaps in your parenting, and you're an adult child and you need to parent yourself if you want to fill those gaps. And after learning all of that stuff, it was fucking crazy, because I learned that because I grew up around addiction, culturally, there was a lot of addiction in the culture that I grew up in. And because it happened during my critical phase, my natural behaviors, my conditioning is addiction. And because of that, you don't know how to be anything other than an addict. That's why when people say, oh, I've got an addictive personality, I don't know why. It's because you were conditioned to be an addict from birth. And
shit, man, I came out of the womb. You know, I was never the middle of the road guy. I know that'll come as a shock to you.
Very, very.
And if I was going to do it, I was all in, and that didn't change. And you know, I always joke that I was just like alcoholic addict, just out of substance. You know, it was just waiting in the wings. And you know, it was different times, man. You know, I grew up in the early 80s. You know, I had a sister that was 5 years older, and all the guys that yeah, I looked up to all these guys and their Trans Ams and shit, you know. And
and the Trans Am.
But no, I remember from a young age, I wanted those guys to accept me, because those guys were cool as shit, man. And I wanted them to think I was, you know, that they would accept me. And you know, I remember, man, like probably at 12, I started drinking around 12 or 13. And I was like, where has this shit been all my life? I mean, honestly, really? I mean, it was like the first time in my life that I was like, I could take a breath, you know? And so the first thing was just like that, being able to take a breath, you know? And then right away, like being one of the guys, man, right away, I was like, shit, man, I finally feel like I'm a part of something. And honestly, it's like alcohol worked for me for a long time, man. It really did. It was my medicine. But I mean, you know how the story ends, you know, it's like,
yeah, man, this is a real success story, this one.
Yeah, every time, man. And I had a shitload of consequences. I mean, I really did. I had a lot of, like, from a young age, I was a wild ass teenager. I think I got
shocking.
Yeah, just crazy, like cops chasing me in my teenage years, and, you know, drinking tequila, driving through San Antonio, getting chased by a bunch of, you know, just wild, crazy. I look back now, it is absolutely nuts. I got two sons, 15 and 17. And what I had done by the time I was 17, it's like, it's unbelievable to me now, you know. But when you ask in the beginning,
do so much sports, you just throw them into sports so that they don't get lost in anything else.
You know what? I don't know. Is it skip a generation? I don't know what the fuck happened. I mean, they are just amazing. But you know, I've been sober for a long time. You know, it's like, I did. I mean, I don't. I live my life through the 12 steps. I'm not going to talk about my program just because it's kind of against the traditions to talk about these things publicly. But my own journey is that, you know, I led this crazy life with lots of consequences, and I had that clarity. I had a clarity a lot, but the last moment of clarity I had was in the middle of the night. I was married. I had, you know, my young sons who had never seen me drunk because they were too young, and it was just this, like, I came to after another night of like a really long blackout. I had started in Austin. I came to in San Antonio, didn't remember that whole gap, which was about 8 or 9 hours. Nisha got me to bed. I came to the next morning, and I was laying in bed. It was probably 4 o'clock in the morning, and I had the same tape playing over and over. It was just like, everything in your life that you care about is going to go away just so you can drink. Because I knew that every time I drank, it was a toss of a coin. Is tonight the night that I'm going to drink a bunch, eat shitty food, and come home and pass out?
Yeah.
Or is tonight the night that I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to kill somebody, or I'm going to end up in prison, or God knows. And it was 50-50 every time. Every time I drank, either thing could have happened. And it was just this clarity that goes to that part that's like behind your heart, that innermost self. And I knew that I had done everything in my power to change my, you know, my income, my wife, you know, like married the good girl, got the good job, made all the money, got all the stuff, everything that I thought in my life that I could arrange so I would mature into a normal drinker. And it didn't happen. And so I was out of good ideas, and that is called a gift of desperation. And it truly was, because I was like, I'm out of good ideas. I don't know how to do this. And I just kind of threw my hands in the air, and, you know, I was in my mid 30s, and the timing was just right, and it took hold. And you know, and ever since then, my sobriety has come first. And as selfish as it sounds, my sobriety comes before my children, before my wife, before my job, because there's no question in my mind that if I'm not sober, that none of these other things are possible. There's no way. You know, it's funny because you talked about the success and everything that I have in my business. Last Sunday, a guy that I help that's been sober a few years, and I'm his sponsor or mentor or whatever you want to call it. And we met last Sunday, and he was struggling with a few things and professionally. And we were sitting at a local coffee on the patio, and he said, God, do you just ever like pinch yourself, like how you built this thing and how you did this? And, you know, I'm always a little uncomfortable when people say that, because it just like I had some kind of magic bullet or something, or that I was just the smartest guy in the world. Right. You know, my business started at the same moment. I was desperate enough and inspired enough at the same time that I opened the doors, and all I've done since then is not fuck it up. Yeah. That's it. You know, it's not like I've been inspired by all these incredible ideas. It's like I just haven't screwed it up. And I honestly feel like that's how this thing is going to sustain and grow. And
sorry, Robby, what role do you think that your sobriety played in not fucking it up?
It keeps me right sized. I know it's kind of a broad thing. So in the beginning, you know, Nisha and I, when we opened that, we had built homes for about 10 or 11 years, and it was during the recession, and everything was going south. And I had a home that I was supposed to build, a custom home for some clients in Austin. And Nisha and I are like, we're so grateful that we get to build this house, because this is going to get us to the next year. And all of our peers in the industry were dying. They couldn't get any new work. They had spec houses. The banks were taking all their houses back because they couldn't make payments on their houses. And so we were like, and I was going to open up a coffee shop on the side in Austin while I built this house. This was in 2008. I put this whole idea together. We're going to do it in Austin. We were looking at real estate. And then about that time, we get a call from these clients we're supposed to build a house for. And they said, and we'd already pulled permits. So this was way down the road. This was ready. We're just getting ready to start. And they sent us an email and said, no, we're not going to do it. We're like, oh, crap. What are we going to do? That was Easter weekend, 2009 at that time. And we came back to San Antonio to visit my parents for Easter. And I got up to get coffee the next morning and realized there was nothing in San Antonio. And I drove around for about 2 hours and came back and said, we need to consider doing this in San Antonio. And that's kind of how the whole thing started. And we opened, that was in February 2009, and we opened October 2009. That's how quick things got started.
Yeah. Were you sober then?
Oh yeah. I was sober, and so I totally derailed your question about what sobriety the role it plays in it. So we opened this, right, and we sell everything we own. I assume I can get a loan from the bank. I mean, I had like $5 or $6 million worth of houses in my name a few years earlier. My credit was still good. I was like, hey, I just need a $100,000 loan to do this, and they're like, no, not happening.
2009.
No, it's a fucking recession. They're like, I won't even go to underwriting.
No.
And so I was like, oh man. So my mom, me at 39 years old, my mom goes and gets a second mortgage on her house. And I did not want this to happen. She did it. No matter what I wanted, she did it. And she was able to bridge the gap of the money we needed to open. And I was in there opening to close, 14 hours a day. And then Nisha would come in and work on Sundays, because we knew that the customer had no idea what we were doing. We were doing something they'd never seen. Everybody that came in ordered a tall, grande, venti. You know what I mean? It was just like, so the whole mantra was educate, don't intimidate, right? And it was just really like, how can I teach these people without being an asshole how to drink good coffee, which I wouldn't drink that coffee I serve now that I served then, but
it's
at the
called
time,
evolution, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's, what did sobriety have to do with what I'm doing, and what role did it play? I mean, I think then, I was really close to my home group.
Cheers.
Yeah. Here you go. Here's some of my Enviro cup.
Oh, nice. This is some of the Rayo elixir, by the way.
Oh, scary. Don't spit it out. Not on camera. It's a whole other subject. So I think the role it played on me then is to keep me from losing my mind, man. It kept me from my sobriety. It keeps me in the middle, man. It keeps me from, part of what my alcoholism is everything is a fucking 10, right? It's like everything's a 10. It's like this magnifying mind. Like if I had somebody write me a bad review, fuck it, close the doors, I'm done. Yes. It's like my wife looks at me funny, like, fuck this, I'm getting a divorce, I'm finding somebody. You know what I mean? It's just like just total extremes. And so
Al-Anon taught me about that. I'm an extremist as well. And I used to wonder why. Like, why can't I just fucking walk in the middle of the road? Why do I have to find the car and stand right in front of the car that's coming at me? And Al-Anon taught me that's what extremist behavior comes from, growing up in dysfunction.
Which in some respects, we're the ones that are willing to step out there and do it.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And not only are we going to do it, we're going to fucking do it. You know what I mean? So once we do it, how do we stay sane? How do we not get bored? Right. Yeah. And that's what the program has taught me. It's like, I do my best to live these 12 steps, and so much of that is based in humility and getting rid of ego. Right.
Very much so.
Because that's who I am. I mean, that's how I survived for so long. And so my unnatural state is to be selfless and be in the middle and not freak out, and it's been something that I've had to learn. And so that's when I say right size, that's what, in the beginning, it kept me sane when times were tough. And I had this overwhelming sense that things were going to be okay. And I also had just failed, basically. I mean, I had walked away from a career of building homes, and I built a really good business and lost everything I had and had to start over. And so I wasn't afraid to fail either.
No, but we're not. We're not afraid of.
You know why? Because
things.
I did. I mean, we lost our ass. I had a lawsuit that was pending. That was, the guy was suing me for more money I never made in my entire life.
Yeah.
And I made it through. And everything was fine. I had my wife and my kids and my family and my health, and it gave me a shit ton of clarity. So when I opened this business, I think that when I got robbed and stripped of all of that stuff, it just gave me a lot of clarity. And so what I wanted to do when I opened this business, it was like the road was it's a lot clearer then than it is now sometimes.
Yeah, wow.
So in the beginning, what separated from me was not lose my shit when times were tough. And now when things are going well, it's to not bleed my own press, right? Not think, oh, way to go, Robby, you're the shit. You're fucking the most creative, conceptual giant. No, man, no.
There's more work to do. There's things we just keep dreaming bigger and bigger. There's shit to get done. Yeah. I've got a dear friend who is going through exactly what you went through then, and he's 36, and I just can't figure out how to get him to choose not to drink, and his life's falling apart.
Yeah, it's hard to watch. It's horrible to watch. I watch it in my family. I watch it all around me, and there's times where I'm like, why did I get it? But you got to understand that I went to my first 12-step meeting when I was 18 years old. So it took me 16, 17 years to get it. And there was times, I don't want to get into gory details and freak people out, but there was times where I was literally living homeless in a house that I was evicted from for months.
Yeah.
And I'm the kind of person that, I've made this bed, I'm going to lie in it. I had so many consequences, but I was so unwilling to say that the common denominator was the alcohol. I just didn't want to give it up, because that was the one thing that gave me the opportunity to take a breath. Yeah. And I never learned how to take a breath until I truly got sober. I think I had surrendered to the fact that I was probably an alcoholic, because it was kind of all in my family. It was so around me that I couldn't really argue the fact that that's what I was, but I just couldn't surrender to the fact that somebody else had a solution for me.
Wow.
It's like I didn't want to say, okay, I'm not smart enough to figure this out. Maybe I'll try it your way. And it wasn't until I came to that crossroads, like, okay, hands in the air, how do you guys do it? Let's do it your way.
Did you, if you don't mind me asking, did you need to detox with chemical assistance? Because I've started learning about delirium tremens and all of that kind of stuff. Like this friend of mine is doing a bottle of bourbon a day, and getting clean for him just seems impossible.
It's scary. I'm going to tell you that coming off alcohol is worse than coming off heroin. It's more dangerous.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and people die from it all the time. I wasn't the daily drinker. I was the guy that had two lives, man. I had the guy that you saw during the week that looked like he really had his shit together. And then one afternoon I would pill off. It was about every 5 days. And I would literally drink from 18 to 30 hours at a time. Just drink myself into complete oblivion, blackout. Yeah. And it would happen like every 5 days.
Nisha's a saint, mate. You don't deserve her.
She does, right?
I love Nisha. I have so much love in my heart for that woman.
She's watched it all. I'm going to tell you, if there's anything that I was graced and blessed with, was a good picker. You know, I wasn't the kind of drunk. I wasn't a Sid and Nancy kind of guy. I didn't want a girl that was as fucked up as me. I always wanted, you know, like the good girl. And Nisha was and is definitely.
She's a good woman, but she's not so good that she doesn't just say it how it is. You know, there are good women who want to deny how things really are. Nisha talks straight. She's an extraordinary woman. She's a hard worker, and she sees things for what they really are. Yeah,
Nisha is God, she's the hardest worker, right? You know, it's kind of hate saying this on air. I feel like a dipshit. Our 20-year reunion's in 2 weeks. Our anniversary is in 2 weeks.
Oh, congratulations, dude.
Yeah, but that's the second time. You know, we've been married twice. So we were married for about a year.
Yeah.
Divorced for about a year, and now married for 20 for good reason. You know, we're married for a year, and then she was like, "Holy shit, what the fuck did I get into?" You know,
this guy's fucking crazy.
Yes. I mean, and
she's a good girl.
She is. So she left for a year. I went in a total tailspin when she was gone, but we became friends in that year. When we first met, we moved in together like 3 weeks after we met, and so it went like just meeting right into a relationship, to living together, to married. Divorced, and
again, that extremist behavior, right?
Totally, man, totally. And then we were divorced. I was like, "There's no chance we're getting back together." And then all of a sudden, we developed this friendship, and we both were living in Dallas, and we had started there was something like happening again. I think we both felt it.
Yeah.
And then I went on one of my binges, and I disappeared, and she couldn't find me for like a couple of months. A couple of months, yeah. I ended up. Crashing in my car that I had for work, you know, drunk, and yeah, it was quite a weekend that turned into like a 2-month deal. And I ended up back in San Antonio, and we started talking again, and we just realized that we both were still really in love with each other, and that we kept trying to replace each other as we were apart. And you know, I don't know I think I probably would have been in prison or dead. Or possibly even got sober sooner if Nisha and I hadn't gotten back together, because I really wanted to be the man that she wanted me to be. I mean, and it's, you know, my disease doesn't mean that I have any lack of willpower. My willpower is insane. I can make some shit happen, you know?
Yeah.
And so through my will, I was able to put together a semblance of a life, and we got remarried and had the kids, and I had all this stuff like look a certain way. But I could only keep that alcoholism at bay for about 5 or 6 days. Sometimes I could go a few weeks, you know, get on good behavior just to make sure that I could show Nisha that I, you know, was going to be okay. And man, she put up with my shit. I can tell you that I definitely had come home a few times with the bags packed. Yeah, and she stuck with me, and I'm going to tell you that when I got, you know, I didn't go to treatment or anything. I went straight into a 12-step program and did this deal. And this last time that I got sober, I remember being 30 days sober. And I'd had a couple of years before in the past of like sobriety, but I was still kind of like focused in the material world. I hadn't really like given up myself, so to speak, you know? But this time it was different. And I remember being about 30 days sober, and Isha and I were living in Austin. And I just had this moment where I had never been more comfortable in my own skin.
Wow.
And that was at 30 days sober, you know? And I got a sponsor in Austin, and this guy, he was homeless when he got sober, and he had about 30 years of sobriety at that time. And he was a very successful man in every respect of the word. And when I got sober, I thought money was a bad thing because I'd chased it for so long and I lost my ass. And he taught me that money was just a means. It's not necessarily a bad thing. But my problem is I wanted it to define me. Mm. And he taught me to, you know, go to lots of meetings. He would say things like meeting makers make it, you know, and get in the middle. And you got to be present and participate to win, you know? So I had to not only go to these meetings, but I couldn't sit in the back row. I had to get in the front, and I was scared to death to speak up once again, you know, because I'm just so scared of what you might think of me. I'm so scared I may say something. People are like, oh, this guy, you know?
Or you'll get found out, you know, that.
But I had that gift of desperation, right? Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to lose my wife. I don't want to lose my kids. And it was just, it's crazy. And so, you know, when I go to meetings today, it reminds me of where I came from, you know? And so I think that as a result of that, it really lessens the fear of failure with what I'm doing. I don't know what always is the right thing to do. You know, I think a lot of people are always like, oh, you know, I want to, you know, do God's will. And I don't always know what the right thing is to do, but I can tell you that at this point in my life and what I've been through, I know what the wrong thing is. And so I really do my best just to not do what the wrong thing is, and everything else seems to work out. And that's, so earlier when I said, just don't fuck it up, that's what I mean, you know, like, you know, not playing twinkly toes with my hot 25-year-old barista that make, you know what I mean? It's like,
exactly.
That's what happens when guys start getting success, man. They're like, hey, you know.
And look, all of that shiny stuff is out there and it can distract you and whatnot. But I think being a well-rounded grown adult that's figured out how not to give in to that stuff is about saying, I know where I'm going. I don't need the distractions. They're great to have for 3 seconds and then they fuck everything up again. Mm-hmm. My addiction.
And I overmarried too, so that helps.
Yeah, you did marry out.
Yeah. So there's that.
I hope she's watching this.
Oh God, I
at
hope
least
not.
know I've got it back. You know, Nisha. I remember saying to her, "Look, I've been trying to figure out what's going on with my health for a couple of years. I quit sugar. That was my big addiction. 8 years ago, and like sugar to me is like alcohol is to you. I can't have a little bit." I need to eat an extraordinary amount, and I don't know what it feels like, but what hole it feels, but it does make me feel safe.
Hey, at least it's not the booger sugar.
Right. so
can't help myself.
So I, you know, got sober, and I do really view it as sober because I needed help to get. I had to address everything that was underneath that, and when I got sober from that, and I still was struggling with a whole bunch of health issues and couldn't understand it, and I thought maybe I'm going to start learning how to run. And after I got back from San Antonio, a couple months later, I text Nisha. I'm like, so listen, I'm going to start learning how to run. Have you got any, because she's a fucking power runner, that woman.
Yeah.
Like, she's insane. And I'm like, have you got any tips for me on doing that?
Married an asshole like Robby and you can't wait to get out and run.
She had like the best advice, like the most logical advice for it. You know, she was kind and she was like, look, take your time and make sure you get the right running gear so that it doesn't distract you while you're running, and hold in all the jiggly bits so that you don't feel them and get distracted by it. And it was really great. And look, since then I found out that I can't run. I still can't figure out, I think, funnily enough, today I figured out what my health issue is that's stopping me from being able to do all that kind of stuff. But having supportive people around you, excuse me, and I've struggled with that my whole life.
Yeah.
I'm only just now coming into that part of my life where I'm starting to find supportive people. It's not
You
funny
have
how
to.
that gets you.
You cannot. That is that's what this whole thing is about.
Yeah.
And that's what my whole life, I have tried to do it on my own. One is I didn't want to let anybody in, man. I'm like, fuck, I don't want them. You know what? It's like, I don't want to let them in. And so the whole key to this thing is having those people around you. And thank God that he put Nisha into my life, because I know a lot of people are trying to get sober and their wives are like, they don't want them to get, some don't want them to get sober because it's their drinking buddy. But the other is just the time it takes for them to go to meetings and make these other commitments. So they need to do to get a good, solid, sober foundation underneath them, especially in the beginning. They're not very supportive, and Nisha has there has not been one time in all of these years that she questioned me having to forego and some other commitment or something that we would do or whatever for me to go to a meeting or go help another alcoholic or whatever. I'm sitting there saying all these things to you, and I realize how bad I am at telling her what I'm telling you. This is turning into a fucking therapy session. You know that, right? I'm like,
oh, clearly,
this is a coffee podcast. Holy shit!
My fucking eyes out.
Yeah.
This is my favorite thing about hanging out with you and Nisha, and it never happens enough. I just feel like I am so okay being me around you two. And it's not that I ever try not to be me, but I really recognize a commonality between the journeys that we've had, and the fact that, we've all got the balls to do what everyone thinks can't be done. And just taking risks and doing all that kind of stuff without the ego. Like, none of us are of the opinion that we're the best at what we do, but we just go and get it done. And that thing that's resonating with me a lot, that what you said is you can't do it on your own. And I feel like this is the time in my life when I'm starting to realize that. Growing up, I never really fit into my family. I was, imagine me being born into a family that thinks that women are irrelevant.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but no, that doesn't make any sense to me. I'm quite confused by that concept that women are less than men.
But is that still what they believe today?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Well, my father does anyway. And that's as a result of his conditioning. His father believed it and his mother believed it. And so that's what they were taught. And I'm first generation Australian. And so for me to grow up believing that women are less than men, but something in my soul told me that doesn't make any sense. And in my brain, I'm like, but why? And of course, because I would question it, I would get into trouble for questioning it. And and they're very proud of me now. But there's still this, I don't really have a relationship with my family. So I can't believe I admitted that here.
It's hard, but there comes a time where it's like, you got to love them from a distance, right? Just for your own deal. I mean, my real father died a few years back. I wasn't even aware that he, had passed away until after he had passed away. He gave me up for adoption when I was, I don't know, at a younger age. I think mostly that he had a lot of mental illness and addiction and stuff of his own. Mm-hmm. My mom always loved me for enough for 10 parents. She tended to overcompensate. But I used some of the things that happened in my life as an excuse a long time for me not to get my shit together, or to excuse some behavior that I had or whatever, and obviously through my journey and having my own kids, I kind of let everybody off the hook, man. It just keeps me sick.
That must have been really nice.
All off the hook, man. It's like everybody's off the hook, and it's so freeing, because there is no question in my mind that people are doing the best they can with what they know, man. And don't get me wrong. I mean, 10 minutes from here, I'll leave and get on the highway and shoot some guy with a finger or whatever, you know, but
I thought you were going to say shoot someone in the head.
No.
Like,
I'm past
You're
that.
in Texas,
See,
mate.
This is progress. This is progress. Now it's just a finger. I'm not pulling guns on them. Yeah. But no, man, it's honestly, it's like me going to the steps and doing that kind of stuff. It's let everybody off the hook, man. And the first person I have to let off the hook is me, you know, because, you know, I acted out of self for so long, you know, and did so many things that I was just ashamed of, you know, and I would be ashamed of them and then I would excuse them, you know. Like if you came from what I did, then you'd be doing what I did. You know, bullshit. You know, like grow up. You know, gotta let that stuff go and let people off the hook, man. It's not an easy thing to do, and it's always. I mean, it's like I don't wake up each morning and go, hey, let's build some character today. You know, God, throw me some shit. You know, and make me uncomfortable and make me fearful and make me angry so I can go through all these emotions and come out the other side and have more character. You know. But unfortunately, that's what it takes. Like I said, when I opened this whole business, it was the time that me and so many people around us were going through recession, and it was a lot of desperation. But through that desperation of what was going on, just financially, but even personally, that I had the most clarity of what was important, you know. And so I think that the reason that my business is still working today is because it was based in that bedrock. In that foundation.
And people like us thrive in those kind of dire situations.
Oh yeah,
like
fucking bring it on.
Yeah.
And I also hire, you know, you said something a second ago, like you like talking to Nisha and I just because you can be yourself and be authentic and real. And, you know, I get asked all the time, like, hey, you know, what is it that makes Merit different than other places? And first thing that comes to mind is always that authenticity.
It's real. Like
it's real. I mean, it's like who we are. It's how we hire. Honestly, it's like, when I'm dealing with somebody, and I have to deal with people all the time that are not themselves, that are not authentic. It's very uncomfortable for me.
It's so easy to pick, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like, very uncomfortable for me. It's a place that I lived in most of my life because I lived in this place for so long. As long as I convinced you I was one thing, then I was okay. Then it was like, oop, check that box. And then I got to a point in my life that it all came crumbling down. And it's very uncomfortable to live that way now and to be around it. And so when I hired people that had that authenticity. And the more people I hired like that, the more people like that it attracted. And so I think the thing about our company as a whole, and which, you know, I really want to keep this company as big as we get as one big circle instead of having an inner circle. You know what I'm saying? Like we're all in this thing together. Because we're only as good as our worst barista, right? We're only as good as that worst last transaction, you know? That shit keeps me awake at night.
Does it really?
Oh, fuck yeah. I go in, man, I just go into cafes and I'm like, oh my God. Because I do. I mean, it's like me and this company, or me, not and the company, it would just be me. You know, I still suffer from this inferiority complex. I'm never going to be able to shake, you know. It's never good enough. But that used to drive me nuts and bananas. And I really thought I could hit that bar.
Now, do you use it? Do you
absolutely.
Use it? Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's the difference for me as well.
I use it for, like, you know, to have a sense of humility, you know, like I don't have this figured out, nor will I ever. But it also makes me want to always get better. It's out of whack a lot. You can ask somebody that works closely with me. They're like, oh, fuck, you know, nothing's good enough for today, Robby, you know, or for Robby today.
Chill the fuck out, Robby.
Yeah, just get away from him, you know.
I found that it was really freeing for me to admit out loud to people, and I do it on the podcast all the time, like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, I don't know what's coming in the future. I just know that when something shows up, I'm going to figure out how to figure it out. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, and that's okay. That used to scare the shit out of me, just admitting that I don't know what I'm doing. But I've worked, particularly the last 10 years since I left my marriage, at trying to figure out how I can look after me and I can take care of my shit and I can take care of my business and build a toolkit of things that help me be adaptable and innovative and hopefully generous and open and authentic and all those kind of things that you can really rest your laurels on, and you know, kindness and all that kind of stuff that make you want to be a person other people want to be around. And if you can be a person that other people want to be around, when you build something, hopefully people want to be a part of that. You know, not being an asshole.
I want it. And like I said, it's almost an unnatural state for me, you know, but I do. I mean, each day I strive for that stuff. It's, you know, I don't fear that I don't know what I'm doing. I fear that people will find out I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I freed myself from that by admitting it as much as I can. I'm like always saying it on the podcast. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, because people say to me, you look like you've got it so under control. You make it look so easy. I'm like, no, let's be very clear. You will never meet an entrepreneur that's doing well that knows what the fuck they're doing. And if they tell you, go on.
You know what? That has been such a gift for me. To have that mindset, because I am learning so much. Yeah. And when I think that I do know what I'm doing, then I just kind of shut off that ability to learn and to adapt and evolve. You know, we opened in 2009. I took on a financial partner probably a year later. That was nothing I was looking to do. He just helped me get to a couple of more stores. He was this fantastic, incredible person. He still is. He's still there's never been a second that I've regretted that relationship, and we're still partners today. And then I had another partner come in in 2014 that was much more, he was the kind of guy I avoided my whole life, right? He was the high school administrator, you know, that authoritarian, and he knows what he's doing. And he's a very smart man, and he's had a lot of business sense. And I'm going to tell you that at first in that relationship, it was like, bam, button heads, you know, like, no, motherfucker, this is my shit and I know what I'm doing. You know, you just go push the pencil. And I'm going to tell you, by having that mindset of like, I don't know what I'm doing each day, if I can open that up, it's so funny, because there's so many things. He's like, hey, Robby, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? When my whole life, whenever somebody like that, like him, said something that to me, I would just shut down. Like, no, you don't know shit. And now I stop and I practice restraint and I think about it. And I hope he never watches this, but he's right. He's right so often. I mean, I did construction my whole life, right? And a big part of what I do is to be able to it's a huge creative outlet for me. So I'm able to like put so much of this just like creativeness that I've been graced with into our cafes, and like from the soul, and it's a process, man. It's got to unfold. And so building a new cafe is a fucking nightmare, because every week I'm like changing shit. And it was that way. And I had done that my whole life. And the outcome was always this beautiful thing. The process was a nightmare for me, everybody around me, total nightmare. And so when we first became partners, we did one cafe my way. I'm like, and it cost a shitload of money. And it turned out beautiful, but it was a nightmare, you know? And so he's like, can we do it my way? And can we like think about these things before we actually do it, and really like try to have a real system here? And of course, system, I was like, fuck, I'm system. That's corporate shit. I'm out.
Boundaries?
I'm out.
What?
No, but I'm going to tell you, by having that attitude and working with someone like that, I have grown and matured more in a business sense, and just even as a man in my personal life, as a result of this relationship. It's just trying to keep that attitude. And that's, once again, I mean, it's like, where does sobriety come into your role today? It keeps me right size, because if I'm not going in there and checking in and remembering where I came from, then I start like, yeah, I am this like creative genius and conceptual genius, and nobody can tell me anything. And you know, where's my new Porsche, and where's my, shiny new girlfriend? You know what I mean?
We see a lot of them here on the West Coast.
I get it. It's like, it's a rush, man. It's like, wow, I'm doing good.
You're still going home alone and hanging out with your whiskey, if that's what
money,
you're looking for.
Property, and prestige, man. Come on.
I'd rather, honestly, like the greatest achievement I think that I've made so far, and look, I haven't made tons of money yet, and it's not even a goal, it's a resource for me, but I think I was talking to Nisha about this. My whole approach to life changed when I started building life currencies, like building wealth in my life currencies. And my number one currency is peace of mind. And so I shifted my life towards how do I build an extreme amount of wealth in peace of mind. And my goal is to put my head on the pillow every night and sleep like a baby. And if I can do that,
so good.
It's really emotional talking about that because I've made it. You know, and
God, I'm totally fucking you up today.
Huh?
I'm totally screwing you up today, man.
You're really fucking me up on my own podcast. Good one, mate.
That's such good, man. I love that you just said that. It's such a great way to put it. You know, when Nisha and I started this thing, we were at the bottom, and we're like, we're going to do this thing for lifestyle. You know, one, so we can get closer to each other. We can show our two boys how to build something from the beginning.
Yeah.
And do this, and it'll give us more time to spend with them. And maybe our bank account won't register as what people would call rich, but we will be rich, you know. And we just knew it because we'd just been through hell. We'd lost everything we'd ever starting over, you know, at 40 years old, and we were happy with each other. And so it was just such a great foundation to start from. Today, it's this thing's growing that I've built, and people would argue that it's not organic. It still feels organic. It feels like this natural progression of what it's doing and where we're going.
But what's organic these days?
It's what?
But what's organic these days?
Nothing. You know, I feel like we are in somewhat of a window for what we do. And it's, especially in Texas, it's somewhat of a real estate play, you know. It's important. We have a location at the Pearl here in San Antonio, which is such a gift. I mean, it's like
beautiful.
The man behind that, he did that for profit, but we always say that was it was one of the most. It was the biggest gift that anybody's ever given to San Antonio, even though he did it for profit. And he really didn't do it for profit. He really didn't. If you knew this man, you would understand why he's a special person. He's a multi-billionaire, and I remember when we had talked about us going in there, and I was way down the road with our design, and the guy that was running everything said, "Hey, Kit wants to meet with you. He wants to talk to you about your design in your coffee shop." And I'm like, "What multi-billionaire wants to talk about a guy's 1,200 square foot coffee shop and his?" You know what I mean? Like, who's going to take the time for that? And he just wanted to meet with me to offer me a lot of these things that they had pulled out of the original brewery and give me access to those that we could use in part of our design in our cafe to kind of fit in. And amazing person. I forgot my point to this. Shocker.
The guy at the Pearl and what were we talking about?
About growing this? Organic? Shit, I don't know.
Wait, how did the Pearl happen?
The Pearl?
Yeah, because that's so different to all of your other shops.
Not really, you think?
Well, I think the reason I think that is because I remember walking into the Pearl because we had dinner there the first night I arrived, didn't we? And then we saw, like, I remember walking there thinking, this seems like it could be in Santa Barbara.
I mean, it's already, in my opinion, getting a little dated.
Wow.
Yeah, it needs a freshen up.
It's one of those places.
It was like,
sorry, go on.
Yeah, the Pearl. We used like old pistons we made light fixtures out of it. Like some of the light fixtures were gauges that were on the side of the beer tanks that he gave us, and we had a guy like fabricate all that. All the wood in the ceiling.
That's what we were saying. We were saying about people who are the most humble and the most who think that they've got all their shit together and know what they're doing. And this billionaire guy, is he like that? Does he know what he's doing? And
he surrounds himself with great people. He does, man. He has a vision, and he just that whole Pearl thing for San Antonio was a catalyst for so much.
So was he doing it for profit, or he wasn't?
No, no, it is for profit.
But
most developers would never have gone to the links that he went to with decisions. He is in on every, like, I can't speak for him because I don't know today. I know that when I was part of this deal, in the way I understand it, he still is pretty much in on every decision that's getting made over there. There was nothing there when they bought that. And now it's totally brought, like, it's just so much growth and so much food and beverage. And I mean, I know what my point was about real estate.
Oh, yeah.
How important real estate is. Now, if I wouldn't have gone in the Pearl and I would have gone a couple of blocks down the road, we'd be doing half our business. And so it taught me a huge lesson. You know, it's like, I'd love to say that wherever we go, people are going to know who we are. They're going to come find us. Well, that's bullshit. The thing about the Pearl is that, a lot of people came and found us. And in the beginning, I think it helped activate a part of the Pearl that was brand new. And so I think by us being there, it brought more people there. But the Pearl brings so many people that walk down the sidewalk and they see coffee and they come in, and then we have an opportunity to turn their coffee light on.
Oh, yeah.
They never had it. You know what I mean?
That must be amazing.
They never had it. And all of a sudden they get this level of, like, service and coffee and ambiance and just this energy that we put out. And once we give them something they didn't know they wanted, they have a hard time going back. And so we create these customers, you know. That
store is really special for some reason. Like, I don't know what it is. I notice the people that contact us as Elixir after being at the Pearl and become obsessed with Elixir. I just don't know what. There's some kind of weird magic at the Pearl that it's a different kind of person that contacts us after being at Merit at the Pearl than any other Merit.
You know, it's the people there that work for us. They're just, you know, there's so much activity there all the time. I mean, literally on the weekends, they have a farmer's market in the mornings, and it kind of starts out the Saturday morning. But we keep a line 20, 30 people deep for, I don't know, 4 to 8 hours.
Finally, like proper high volume.
Yeah, and we can get it out, and we take care of them, and we're still nice people and get great. It's just the energy in that place is so good. And we you know, is it duplicated the other places are in different locations, and you kind of get a different vibe, but hopefully you get the same kind of soulful.
It's still the Merit vibe, but there really is something different about the Pearl. Like the customers that contact us from being at Merit in Austin or in any of the other stores versus being at the Pearl, it's just like we have this really great, he's a helicopter pilot that contacted us after being at the Pearl. And he's the perfect example of the kind of person that finds us through that store. You know, he has boxes of Elixir shipped to him around the country based on where he's going to be working that week.
Oh, sounds like a problem.
Yeah. He has shipped to his home and then shipped to where his girlfriend is and then shipped to wherever he's going to be that week working as a safety helicopter.
Wow.
Pilot. Yeah. And it's those kinds of people that find us through the Pearl.
They love Elixir at the Pearl too. So, you know, it's
awesome.
Funny because you can see the cafes where everybody, a lot of times it's dictated by the manager or maybe whoever the coffee person is in that. So each cafe has a manager, and then we have a trainer in each store who's kind of responsible for all coffee QC in that store. And those people are obviously the most influential. And if they have a certain drink that they love, then it kind of becomes a thing.
Yeah.
So
it's something I love about what you guys do is it's very clear. You know, there's a very clear understanding about what Merit is about, what their people are about. I love engaging with all of your people. Your staff are, they really are an actual extension of you and Nisha. They remind me of you a lot. They're very genuine in the way that they communicate. They don't talk shit. They don't want to waste your time. They want to be as helpful as possible. Excuse me. And they want you to feel good after you've stopped talking to them.
So how do I keep that in double in size, triple in size?
Yeah. Just keep doing what you're doing, mate. It's
People ask me, like, how do you plan on doing it? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, you know, we are bringing people into our stores and bringing them into our system, and we're promoting people from within. You know, just figuring it out as we go.
You're creating the future of the coffee industry in Texas, in San Antonio, and in Austin. Like, when our culture here in America is still about 10 years behind where the coffee culture is in somewhere like Australia. It's why I want the three of us, you, Nisha, and I, to go to Australia sometime in the next couple of years, because I think it would be really beneficial for you guys to see where you're going to end up with this. I have
some time free in October.
Please come.
Just kidding.
I'm going to be there.
That's about it. Probably for the next 3 years, I don't think I have any time.
Hey, I'm going to be there next month. Why don't you two come?
I know,
it'd be awesome. And I would find a spot for you to talk on the panels.
Oh, God, no.
It would be fucking great. I think we would have such a great time in Australia, the three of us. It would be a riot.
Yeah, what is it? So it's...
You froze right then. Say that again. Robby, I don't know where you've gone. Hello.
All right. Oh, you're back.
There you are. So, sorry, what is what?
Tell me about y'all's journey that you're getting ready to do in Sydney and Melbourne.
Yeah, so...
little plug for you.
Thanks, mate. Yeah. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're going to be doing 2 3-day workshops in Sydney and Melbourne. Starting with a kickoff. We're going to do this crazy. You'd absolutely love this. We're doing the kickoff event is being sponsored by La Mazzocco, and they came up with the coffee competition for the kickoff event, which is a cross between coffee preparation and CrossFit.
Amen. I'll do the CrossFit part. Somebody else do the coffee preparation.
Nisha can do the AeroPress and dial the coffee in, and you'll run through the tires.
Whatever it is, I'll do handstand push-ups.
You know, Jared Truby from Cat and Cloud he's coming as well, and he's a CrossFit nut. He's so excited about this. But so there's a kickoff party, and that's happening at Campos for Sydney, and we're not quite sure where it's happening yet in Melbourne. But that's on the Friday night, and then on the Saturday we have a full day of content that's focused towards cafe owners, and then the day after that is focused towards roasters, and so production roasters and people who own their own brands and their own roasteries. And then on the Monday we have a day that's focused at content for baristas, and you know, we do that in Sydney, and then we do it in Melbourne the weekend after that.
Sounds like a blast.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun.
Well, except Scott's going.
No, Scott's going to be there via video.
Okay. So maybe it will be a blast.
I'm like, come, it's going to be so much fun. He's like, I can't come. I just a trip to Australia in October, and then a trip to Australia again in February. It's just too much for him with everything
that's
going on with his health.
He better be checking on our roaster right now. I think he's going to be nice enough to go check on our roaster getting built right now in Germany.
I just texted him. I'm like, I don't know where you are, but are you safe? And he said, I don't know where I am. And then in brackets, I'm not kidding, but I'm safe. Like, okay, that sounds exciting. What the fuck does that even mean?
You gotta love him. I haven't seen him in a little while. I need a fix.
Yeah.
Back down here soon.
You should definitely come to Australia. You'll get to see him through a screen. No, I think he's back in a couple of weeks, and he'll be back in Santa Barbara then. He might be coming up to San Diego sometime towards the end of the year, usually around Thanksgiving.
You put this whole event, you put it together? Good for you. That's amazing.
We've got our partners in Australia. They invited us to do this. You know, for a lot of reasons, I'm excited and terrified to do this. It started as Nawar saying, listen, you know, we're getting a lot of people ask us for, courses on career and that kind of thing, and they want Map It Forward to do it. Do you want to come and do one? And I'm like, well, yeah. And secretly, truth be told, since, you know, clearly this is a therapy session, I was terrified about doing this because of the response that I got from the Australian community about Elixir. And, you know, in an Instagram live that I did this weekend.
It's like going back to a high school reunion, right?
It's exactly that. That's a really good way to put it. You know, we did this Instagram live where people could ask all questions about entrepreneurship, because that's our theme of the month. And someone said, what's the hardest thing that an entrepreneur experiences in their first year? And for me, my response was, it's different for every entrepreneur based on their life journey and how many entrepreneurial endeavors they've been through. But for me, with Elixir, the hardest thing was that I had a whole industry turn against me. The amount of cognitive dissonance that Elixir, charged the community with was really difficult, because I wanted people to like me my whole life. And I just wanted to be accepted. And I couldn't understand, like, what am I doing to everybody? I'm just trying to launch a business and trying to figure out how to do this. What did I do to you? Why is everyone being such an absolute asshole towards me? People were sending me.
Is it still going on?
Not nowhere near as much. Map It Forward, honestly, Map It Forward was the thing that changed it. People, I think the best thing for Elixir was Map It Forward, because it gave people insight into who I am, and it helped people understand, like, oh shit, she's not like some weird, crazy businesswoman who wants to fuck everyone up. Like, the thing that people keep saying to me is, oh my God, you're actually really nice. I'm like, what did you think I was? Like, what's the word on the street about?
Cares what they don't think about you. They just get on and start clicking away and create this little fucking mob effect. And
it was horrible, Robbie. Like, I was caught between this weird state of feeling like I had been gifted, like this business had come through me, and I was the luckiest girl in the world to have the opportunity to explore myself and uncover deeper parts of myself that I didn't understand. And I was about to learn all the fears that I hadn't found about myself. And I was so reveling in the excitement of that. And then at the same time, this onslaught of, who do you think you are to do this to Specialty Coffee? Like, the number of people that sent me that message, I'm like, wait, what? Like, I'm just trying to better myself. I'm just trying to learn. I'm just trying to see what I'm made out of. Like, I'm not doing anything to you. And it was some of the hardest couple years of my life.
Oh, I imagine.
Just
but when you and I met, and you were going through that, you were like, fuck them, I'm good. You weren't good. Yeah. Nobody. Yeah.
No, and it was this thing of trying to convince myself that, listen, this has been happening to you in one version or another your whole life. Like, at what point do you get the fuck over this shit?
Yeah.
And I thought eventually.
I don't think you ever get over it. Do you ever really get over it? I know that I get more resilient.
You understand it more.
I can let it go. It used to drive me, and it comes in, and I have that same feeling, but that feeling of that fear and that anger, like, it's fear that ends up manifesting as anger, right? Yeah. But it comes in, but then I can look at it for what it really is, and then I can let it go.
Yeah.
Not every time. Sometimes I can do it in an hour. Sometimes it takes me a month. It just depends on what the situation is. But I do think that the specialty coffee world is changing extremely quickly. It's funny because, I mean, I remember it's just in the recent history, there was like all these guys that were huge names in coffee, right? It's so funny. We have so much new stuff that's happening. Nobody knows who anybody is anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, not just people, but I mean, just brands, I can remember for years, everybody was like, hey, I'm going to Phoenix for the weekend. Where do I get coffee? I'm like, I don't know anymore. It's like, there's so many options now. So I think that people, like the haters coming in when anybody's trying to penetrate their specialty coffee bubble, are getting less, just because the bubble is getting a lot bigger.
Yeah. And I think we're starting to get the message out there of, because I still get a lot of reactions. I just posted a story about this on Instagram yesterday. Someone came through with a question of, how do you keep your creativity rolling as an entrepreneur?
Oh gosh.
And I was talking about, you've got to surround yourself with the right people. You've got to ask yourself the intelligent and difficult questions constantly, because that's a great source of inspiration. And make sure that that when you see people that are hating on you, that you don't allow that to be the thing that sinks you, because that can really stifle your creativity. And then I wrote a message to the haters, and I was like, listen, if you're somebody who's a complete asshole when somebody talks about a new thing, there's an appropriate way to respond to that. If you don't agree with something that somebody's doing is new, don't talk shit about it. if you've got a way of doing it better, then back yourself, put your money where your mouth is, and get the fuck on with showing people how you can do it better. Otherwise, sit the fuck down and shut your mouth, because no one wants to hear your hate.
The ones that are doing the hating aren't doing anything.
Then that's
except hating. Yeah.
But I've learned a lot in the last couple of years. I've learned, and as much as people would say to me, you know, this is great that this is happening. You know, people are taking notice of Elixir. No press is bad press is not bad,
bullshit.
You know? And I'm like, listen, I have to go through this journey. This is here to teach me how to learn to let go. And it's an important part of my journey. I've never, in 43 years, I hadn't learned how to do it. And now I do. You know, now I know that this is not about me. When I do something, I'm just someone who does things differently. And I have to be comfortable with that. I have to be comfortable that I'm not someone that follows a crowd. And if I'm not comfortable with that, I need to sit the fuck down.
Yeah.
Because it's just who I am. And I'm not able to go against who I am. And I better stop falling apart every time somebody says something mean to me. Because you're right. Like when you saw me at SCA, when we met, I wasn't okay and I was terrified, and I was in a room of people who I know that they knew me as that person from Elixir, you know, and that was very uncomfortable. It was really, really uncomfortable. But now people are getting to
probably
know
not near the level that you think that that's the case. Everybody's too
agree
busy thinking about themselves. You know what I mean? It's like, it's something else that's really important for me to remember is like, people are caught up in their own shit. They're thinking about themselves. They'll shoot out little things of hate, but they're not thinking about me.
Scott used to tell me that all the time.
I completely, I don't know how long it's been. I don't know if it's been 9 months or a year. I don't have any social media apps. I don't check it. I don't go on.
That must
Nothing.
be awesome.
Yeah. They Instagram's always sending me an email like, hey, so-and-so, and like trying to bait me, you know, like, and every once in a while I'll take a little bit of bait, but, and it's not that I'm completely like out there comparing my insides with everybody's outsides. Like I think a lot of people do. Don't get me wrong. It's definitely part of it, but I realized it was just a distraction.
And there's a lot of ego that comes with that, right? It's like, there's that thing that drives us of
not much reality in it.
No, not at all. No. And I came to this point where I was realizing, like, while you're obsessing over this, what you're missing, Lee, is the fact that this is complete ego. The fact that you care what other people think about you, and the fact that you give any shits about the fact that they hate you is a complete ego statement. Like, stop paying attention to it. Start focusing on the work. Like, if somebody wants to hate on you, then that's their fucking shit. Stop feeling important because people hate you.
Oh, when we opened, I don't know, probably 4 years, I looked at every single review. Every review. But I never,
Did you respond?
Yes, but never reacted. I responded, but I didn't react.
Mm-hmm.
And I would give it some time. And I would always figure out, no matter how ridiculous and insane it was, a lot of times I would say that we dropped the ball because at the point of sale, we didn't give them an expectation about what they were about to get.
Yeah.
Or we didn't recognize that they were new and tell them that, you know, we offer free refills or whatever the situation was. I always found whatever part it was that we played in it. And I did it for years until the point where I just couldn't do it anymore, because I realized that my whole life that it was important for everybody to worship and adore me. Not just like me, not hate on me, but they had to work. I mean, they had to like, he is the fucking shit, whatever it was. Right.
Yeah.
And anything less than that, fuck that guy, he's a loser, you know, whatever. It was like, you know, I always find some reason. And so, yeah, I became aware of this at like, I don't know, 40 something years old. And I got to the point where, okay, I just want everybody to like me. They don't have to like worship and adore me. But now being where I'm at in my life, it's, you know, as long as I know that I'm doing the best I can to do the best I can. And when I don't, have the balls to go clean it up.
Is that a part of you letting yourself off the hook?
Yes. I can't let other people off the hook if I don't. I got to keep my side of the street as clean as I can.
Yeah, that's a great saying from
I just have to, man. I do, man. It's like I screw up all the time, man. I'm an emotional person, you know, and I know that I can't act intelligently if I'm emotional. So I do my very best to, the biggest tool that I've been taught is I had a guy that sponsored me who had this incredible influence over me. And he said, before anything comes out of my mouth, to ask myself, will this make the situation worse?
Wow,
and I realized,
great gift.
I realized that pretty much anytime I opened my mouth, it made the situation worse. Almost every time, you know, but then I started to learn to practice restraint, you know, and to really ask myself like that stuff. So restraint has been a huge, huge tool for me to step back and try not to react. But, you know, I'm an emotional guy. I do, you know, and when I do act emotionally with my kids, probably more than anybody, I go back in and I clean it up, you know, like I don't make excuses like I'm tired. I got a lot going on at work. I'm like,
I'm sorry,
you know,
I fucked up.
Yeah, it was inappropriate, man. You know, I let my emotions get the best of me. It was uncalled for, and you're a badass and I love you and I'm sorry, you know.
That teaches them how to do it as well, doesn't it? Like,
I hope so.
I feel like I get really frustrated sometimes. I'm like, I didn't have people teach me how to deal with the basic kinds of emotions like frustration, but most people didn't. Like most people in our age group didn't grow up with parents who sat them down and said to them, hey, that's Scott texting me now about his German hotel.
Oh God.
Talking about the Germans. You know, most people in our age group didn't grow up with people, weren't raised by people that said to them, so listen, when you're frustrated, it means you can't deal with your emotions. So you just need to give yourself some space, allow it to unfold, and then just apologize for whatever tantrum you just threw. I don't know many people in our age group that were raised that way. I had to parent myself to learn that. And so it's fucking hard. And I'm so
But we're in an age of awareness, Lee. I mean, everybody, it's like you cannot not be aware of this stuff. There's too much. I mean,
absolutely.
We talk a lot about too much information being a bad thing, but this is a positive side of it. I mean, we have access to this. You know, we know when we're not doing what we should be doing, you know?
Yeah. And have you heard of Jordan Peterson?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Isn't he fucking awesome?
Yeah. Yeah. I listen to all that crazy shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know,
you know,
I found him through the Joe Rogan podcast, and I have one of my best friends is a neuropsychologist, and he and I both like consume a lot of Jordan Peterson.
I have to listen to him like 3 times. I'm not intelligent enough to follow him.
No, I'm the same. I re-listen to it, especially like his conversations with Sam Harris and Brett Weinstein and things like that. But the thing is, they talk logical shit. You know, they're saying they address the stuff that's real. I feel like he's the parent, he's the father that most men didn't have. And he's teaching them like, listen, if you want to have a good life, you have to make that happen. Life is fucking tough. If you want to have a good wife and you want to have a woman that you're worthy of, then you need to be worthy of having her. Like,
but see, I got a lot of hope. I mean, in this crazy time that we live in with all of this like unrest in the whole world and this constant news and all this crazy political shit, you know, it's like, I have a lot of hope because I think a lot of people are getting their information in this, like what we're doing right now. It's like they're getting people like men like me that are willing to not just posture and actually share some of our vulnerabilities. And you have people like Jordan Peterson. I just read a friend of mine sent me a book, Ego is the Enemy. And,
I've got to check that out.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. It's on Audible. It's
Thanks.
So there's just so much information out there to teach us how to not do things that we were taught. And I don't think that it's because we had necessarily bad parents.
No,
they were doing the best that's what they knew, right? Yeah.
That's what they were taught. And they didn't have access to the same kind of information that we did. Like, I know that if I did have a relationship with my dad now and I sent him Jordan Peterson stuff, I bet he would consume it like crazy. He would love that stuff, but it's just not something that they had available to them. And there's no excuse for anyone that's living in this era to be an asshole and to stay an asshole. You know, like and I say this at the workshops, I'm very clear about, listen, if you're one of the coffee assholes that we all know, and we call them coffee people, there is no excuse for you to continue to do that, because there is an astronomical amount of free content out there that teaches people how to be kinder, how to be more open-minded, how to be more generous, how to think about things and question themselves, how to give themselves some space between the time that they think something and the time it comes out of their mouth. Like, these are all skills in how not to be an asshole. And it's all free. It's all out there. Like, go Google this shit. Go and watch any of the podcasts that Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson have together. Just listen to the Joe Rogan podcast with a lot of the people he speaks to. Well, I live in hope. This is my
especially the coffee assholes, right? It's like, that's what I love about Scott. I think, I don't want to give Scott any credit at all, because he's fucking drives me crazy. But the one thing that I do like about Scott is like
the only one thing. That's it. It's just one thing.
So way down here in South Texas, right? We weren't in Portland. We just didn't have access to a lot of people that were doing coffee when we got started. And so it's so funny. It was the day of the like the brew master and the roast master, and I think Scott really pulled the curtain down on that stuff, right? Like, hey guys, there's a little bit of science to back this stuff up. And,
yeah, a little bit.
So it's awesome now, because you don't have this like a dozen guys that everybody's got to put on this pedestal of, they have the exact wrist action in their gooseneck kettle to pour a perfect piece. You know what I mean? And what it's done is it's given us, I can go almost anywhere now and get good coffee. Maybe not great.
Well, better than it used to be.
Oh God, big time. But it also got rid of a lot of that, elitist asshole coffee person. They're still out there, but nobody cares. Nobody's paying attention to them.
There was this really great thing that happened in the music industry a few years ago, when Neil Young got really pissed off that somebody had covered his song as an electronic dance music track.
Oh God.
And I had a podcast at the time called The Music Spring. It was a music entrepreneur show and blah, blah, blah. And I had this really famous, it was a panel, and there were a lot of people who'd won Grammys on it. And the panel changed every week. And this one episode, we were talking to people in EDM. So we had one of the guys who had established, one of the executives from Napster, and this other guy, Neil Ackland, was on. And I said to him, so what do you think about this Neil Young controversy? And do you think that there's any meat in this? Like, do people have the right to be pissed off? And he said, listen, the people who are pissed off are the people who have grown up listening to Neil Young. But the EDM community are all saying, who the fuck is Neil Young? And, and that's what's happening. Yeah, sure. That's exactly what's happening right now. Is everyone's like, well, who the fuck is X, Y, and Z? Because I know you might know who they were, but
they don't know who they are. They don't. What's funny about our staff in our stores? And it's something that I thought was a deficiency at what we did, is that like if someone came from wherever, from Portland or wherever, a big coffee culture, they knew everything about every type of espresso machine and brew method and origin, all this stuff. And they came into our cafes and they started questioning our, have you ever worked on a Black Eagle or what this type of grinder or whatever? You'll probably find a lot of our baristas are like, they don't know what they're talking about. They can't really have dialogue in that. And it used to drive me crazy. I'm like, everybody needs to be versed to be able to talk to a coffee professional if they come in. But our people are really, really good at executing coffee with the equipment that we provide them. And so they're not spending all their time when they're outside of there reading coffee blogs to be able to carry a conversation with something that was irrelevant for what they were doing with us. I do think there's a place for that, and I want them to learn it. But I used to think, God, I wish we could hire people that were more well-rounded, more experienced, because we just didn't have a lot of other places for them to go and experience other stuff. But I just don't know how important that is anymore. You know what I mean? No. It's like, just enjoy a great cup of coffee. And
when we were coming up, you'd always know, like, that barista that would come in and they'd be like, so would you dial it in it? I'm like, my first thing was like, I don't even know how the fuck to answer that question.
Well, we can tell you that. We can tell you everything with what we do, but it's like getting outside of what we do. A lot of them, you know, not so much.
And when people would do that 10 or 15 years ago, we weren't using scales. We weren't anything. Like, no, it was 2 clicks on the grinder, and there was no automatic grinder, nothing. Like, no, when we were tapping on the side. Oh, yeah.
25 seconds.
Yeah, man. The blacker the better.
1 ounce. Yeah.
That was what we used to say. The blacker the better. Like 10 drops, and then we would run it out to the customer so that, none of the crema dissipated. It was like, fuck, we were such assholes back then.
Okay, I'm about to pee in my pants. I've got a child bladder, man. I did good. You told me to pee before this, but I've been drinking coffee and water.
I just realized we've been talking for like a fucking hour and a half.
I know.
Jesus, that went quick. I'll let you off the hook then.
Thank you for making me do this. I did not want to do it. I was like, I have so many balls in the air, and I'm like, I just feel so disconnected because we're just, we're growing out of San Antonio. There's so much going on. I'm like, I'm not going to be the best version of myself, but this is where I'm at. This is where I'm at right now.
This was, I got to tell you, of all the podcasts that I've done, and I hope nobody who has done a podcast with me before this is like 26, I think, or 25. This has been my favorite one, Robby.
Oh God, just because I made you cry. No, I love you. You're awesome.
I love you too. And like I said to you, like you and Nisha have a massive place in my heart for what you came into my life at a time that I really needed to meet people like you. And I was feeling very exposed, and you didn't know it. You could never have known it. And it was like, right, so the universe has put these 2 people in my path to show me that I am okay. And it is all going to be safe. Fuck, dude, you've got me crying again.
All right, let's get off. I got to pee. All right. I love you.
I love you too. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
See you. Bye.